Welcome in again, everybody, to Bowden Ball, Auburn Football Edition, 2026 on Auburn Undercover. Coach, how you doing this morning?
Doing good. It's amazing. Football is finally here, or at least it's soon to be here. And, for those of you who have followed us earlier in the summer, I accepted an opportunity to coach the arena football team in Monroe, Louisiana. They didn't have a coach. They have a new team. So they came to me and I said, it looks like it would be fun. And to some degree it was. But it's over now. We made the playoffs. We had a heck of a year, a fun year. And, but real football again. So, in the fall, I mean, arena football is great fun, but I'm not sure it's like coaching flag football, like coaching something different but fun, but college football's here, Auburn football's here. And I think the great thing about Auburn football this year, because you got Alex Golesh, you got a new era that always brings excitement. It brings anticipation. And I think everybody is excited for the season to begin. And so I'm looking forward to it. We've got a lot of new stuff. Maybe you want to talk about some of the new things we're doing as a network and as a podcast and a broadcast.
Yeah, we've got Auburn Undercover is now an independent site, and we've forged a partnership with Tiger Communications in Auburn. Our show is going to be on the radio. We've got more information coming about that, but our show is going to be on the radio every Saturday morning. And again, we've got more coming. We got live shows coming. We got a lot of things planned for this fall. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I get to put on the Auburn hat every weekend or every time we do the show. And again, I say that because Bowden Ball is the name of my podcast that I do. I do a national podcast, Bowden Ball, The Winning Edge, which I do with my partner, Joe Lisi. We do it on a national network, Band Sports Network, national. And we do that podcast that's aired on Wednesday and Friday. I'm sorry, Tuesday and Friday. That one airs nationally on the internet. But then we come back and I work with you and we have a great time doing we'll do our normal 1 hour podcast that we've done throughout last year. And we'll do that one every week of the season. But what I've agreed to, and again, we're working with Tom and Haley and Tiger Communications. Their 5 radio stations, their network in Auburn, Ronnie's network, Auburn Undercover online. We've combined those two to simulcast what we're doing. It ought to be pretty cool because, again, we not only will do a 1 hour show like this, which I think we will, again, have guests on, talk about each week of Auburn football, plus talk about the upcoming season, upcoming week, SEC-wise and national. But then I'm committed right now to coming to Auburn every home game. We have 6 home games. With Baylor being in Atlanta, we have 6 home games. And I'll look forward to coming in on Thursday. Because my mother stays there. She's an assisted living there. And so I come in, I get to see my mother a little bit. But we'll come in on Thursdays and quite possibly do a live remote on Thursday nights. Possibly something on Friday. A Saturday morning live on location show that will be simulcast. All those things we're excited about. We haven't quite decided all the things we will do, but it will be a pretty good weekend. So even on games that we're away at Auburn, we're not in Auburn, we'll still carry our show. But when Auburn is at home, we'll have extended coverage. We'll have extended activities. Should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Get to put on your orange and blue for that week for those shows. Although, as people might imagine, when I'm doing a national show called football, I try to not wear any hats, And I will say this, don't ask me to do the over and under in the prediction on an Auburn score. The one score I want to stay away from, because I do a lot of predicting how much someone's going to win. Are you going to beat the line or not beat the line? That's very much a part of college football today with wagering online and legal. People want to know, are you going to win by 7? Are you going to win by 2.5? What's the over and under? And I don't think you could be an Auburn fan and get too much into that. I don't know. I don't think I want to sit around and tell people I think Auburn's going to win by 3.5, but not by, that's not. So we'll try to stay away. And I would encourage you, if you love Auburn, bet on everybody else, but be careful betting on your heart. I learned one thing. It's not easy to win those things. And we'll talk about a lot of the national games. If you want to go on my national show and listen to some of the picks that I do there, I'll be glad to do that with y'all there. But we want to talk about Auburn football. an inside look at it, and trying to get some ideas about Auburn football that you might not see otherwise. And again, I think Ronnie and I both have, like so many of you listeners out there, a long time relationship with Auburn, but we've got some history and some past that might give us some input, especially into the new Alex Golesh era. And that may be the first thing we talk about, Ronnie, is we're out entering a new era. And anytime you got a new head coach and with a new era, there's excitement, there's anticipation. Everybody just thinks this is going to be it. This is what we've been waiting for. This is what and everybody's excited at Auburn. I think they're excited about Alex Golesh. They're excited for Alex Golesh and for his football team, our football team. And so that's going to be exciting. We can talk about some of the things that we might look to and what that means. I think there's some interesting stats out there of what the first year of a new head coach actually means in relation to their total success at the program. You know, there's always that thought that there's no real defining point in your career, no real defining point in your era. And quite often we'll see with some of the coaches of the past in Auburn that first year may and may not be an indication of the good things to come or the bad things to come. And we can look at that and not to put a damper on anybody's expectation, but to understand that there are limitations in what you can do in the first year at a program most of the time. So we can look at some of that and then to look at, I think I'm interested in specifically, and as you know, as our listeners know, I tend to focus a lot of the coaching aspect on because that's what I've spent 30 years as a head coach in college and all my life coaching at the various levels of football and how that impacts the outcome of the game and the outlook of a season and a team. And we'll do that with Auburn football. But should be exciting. It's the first year, first game just weeks away. And I don't know that we can get here any sooner.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun this year. You know, as far as a blueprint for first year head coaches, you've got a pretty good one. I mean, you've still got, I was looking down through here, the 5 most successful Auburn coaches by winning percentage. You're still number one.
Well, thank you. You know, the first year can be exciting. I mean, that is, I mean, you might talk about this. We looked at the history of Auburn coaches. I mean, Auburn's had a lot of coaches since it began to play football in the South. I think 1893 was that first game at Auburn years ago. And then the first real coach of notoriety may have been, at least for a long term, Mike Donnie, 28 years as the head coach. He goes all down the years with Jack. Is it Meager or Mager? Was a famous head coach there, either during the World Wars or between the World Wars. Then, of course, Coach Shug, who came in at 51 and was there for 25 years. Followed Coach Dime, myself, and others. But it's interesting to look back over the years of head coaches at Auburn and look at their first year and then look at the success they've had at Auburn. And you could draw some parallels, but sometimes you can't. But I don't know what's the list of top coaches and what they did in their first year, and then maybe what their winning percentage was. What was their how successful were they during their time at Auburn?
Yeah, you're still number one at 731. Mike Donahue was undefeated 5-0 his first season, ended up at 730. But Dye, Tuberville, Jordan all had losing records in their first season.
Well, you know, and that happens sometimes. Like I say, I know Coach Donahue was 5-0 back in 1904. I mean, talk about 100 years. Almost 100 years, at least over 90 years between Donahue and myself coming there. And we had fantastic first years. I think the undefeated seasons, there have been 2 in Auburn history with new coaches, and that was 04, 1904. Not 2004, in 1993, which we went undefeated there. But some of the coaches who took over, the first year wasn't as good as what they hoped. And some of those coaches, I mean, you know, Coach Jordan did not have a great first year, and he became a 25-year coach with national champion. Coach Dye took over, and I want to say he went 5-6. Coach Dye, what did he go his first year?
5-6. Ended up
5-6, and he went on 2 years later in '83. To win the SEC and have a great career there. Tommy Tuberville, I think, was about 50-50 in his first year. Went on to an undefeated season a couple of years later. And then there are those that had great first years and it didn't last as long. And so, again, everybody has great expectations for a first year. And you hope things are great that first year. I think there's a good chance that there'll be definitely a positive upbeat at Auburn. But can't always worry too much and say, well, that's the defining year of their career, because so many good things happen after they build their program, build their art. And I think a lot of people don't realize is where was the program at when that coach got there? How far down had it gone? I mean, Auburn right now with 5 straight losing seasons, I don't think they've had 5 straight losing seasons either in history or at least in modern football history.
Not modern history. It's been long.
As Auburn been through 5 losing seasons and what Coach Golesh has to deal with. So again, I would say history has shown us that no matter what happens, it's not going to define his career at all. He could win more games than they won last year, but not as much as everybody hopes. And it will be the beginning of a great career at all, of a great era. Or he can have an unbelievable start, and then have faltered somewhere down the road, and that can happen. So again, the greatest thing about a new coach and a new era is that the anticipation is there. Everybody is ready for something exciting to happen. And I think that can be is something we can look forward to with Alex Golesh. I was reading some background. I've been trying to read a little more background on Coach Golesh because he comes to Auburn, a little bit of an unknown in the SEC. He was at Tennessee with Josh Heine. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting to note that in 1922 and 2022, if everybody remembers, that was the great Tennessee offense. They led the nation in scoring. They led the nation in total offense. They killed Alabama. They beat Alabama in an incredible game. I remember back that year. And so I studied that year. I studied Tennessee that year. I would say, I'm going to run that offense next year. It's interesting to note many people, because of Josh Heupel's background, felt that he was involved, but Alex Golesh called the whole offense that year. He was the offensive coordinator. He called the offense. It was fantastic offense. I watched it. I studied it. And it was a fast break, no huddle, get up and get out and play football. Very exciting. And I think it made a big impact on college football. And I think it's an indication of what we can expect offensively in Auburn. I mean, in Auburn this year, maybe the most exciting thing is, win or lose a ball game, we're gonna go out play. We're gonna go out finally going fast and doing things. And I think that's part of what Josh Heupel did. And again, I think last year not only was USF tied for number one country as the fastest offense in the country. That means I think 21.4 seconds between a play. They ran more plays than anybody in the country. I think tied with FAU, I think Florida Atlantic, and they tied for number one as the fastest offenses in the country. But he had also an offense that was one of the best offenses in the country, scoring wise and total offense wise. And I think that's something that all of Auburn can look forward to. It got kind of hold on there for what last year and the year past, depending on DJ Durkin and the defense to pull something out, because offensively we just didn't seem to be able to put it together.
Yeah, there's no question. And hopefully I know that everybody's excited to see a different kind of offense coming in. Kind of give us your first year blueprint. I mean, your first year blueprint worked pretty well.
Well, I think, when I look at what I haven't been a head coach not in Auburn, but 6 different universities, and every time you go in, you want to try to not break anything. I don't think you need to break something that's not broken. I think you got to take what they do well, what a team does well, what their strengths are, and try to keep that part going. And then trying to add what you can add that the team really needs. And you look at the 93 team that I brought into, I'm an offensive coach. I call plays, I run the offense. That was what I was going to do. But I thought very important in my team to retain your defensive coordinator, retain that defensive mentality. And we had a strong defensive mentality in Auburn. We had Van Dyne, and of course Wayne Hall, who was the defensive coordinator. I retained, and we maintained a very, very physical Joe Witt, Wayne Hall, Kirk Crane was also played at Auburn, was on that staff. John Collins was on that defensive staff. And the thing that I say that because Alex Golesh was smart enough to do everything he could to retain DJ Durkin. And if you last year, if there was one thing we could hang our head on, we kept in ball game. We played good defense, and that kept us in ball game with a chance to win a lot of ball game. And so I think what's happened is I think the biggest thing going into the season, if we can maintain that level of defense, we've got some replacements, but I think at linebacker wise, we're as good as anybody in the country right there at linebacker. We're deep at safety, so down the middle of our defense, we've got strength. You get some good edge rushers and build around that. I think Coach Dirk can have the same type of defense. And then the question becomes, how much offense can we add? How much offense can we add? And I think the big thing was that I like there is Coach Golesh brought his quarterback with him. I mean, Byron Brown's going to be the focus of all the attention this year, I think, on Byron Brown more than anything else, is how is he going to run that offense, which is the exact same offense that he had last year, with the exact same quarterback coach that he had last year, the exact same play caller that he had last year, with almost all the wide receivers that he had last year. I know there's, I think, 10 new starters on offense are portal transfer. I think we have 10, 12 transfers. Maybe he kept the best one, Jeremiah Cobb, at running back. Which is critically important in an Alex Golesh offense to be able to run the football. But that's one of the things. So I think when you say, what is the blueprint? I said, I don't know that I've got the perfect blueprint, but I look at what I try to do and what I was told coaching. I look at what Kurt Signetti did at Indiana, bringing so many of his players from James Madison and then going with his, and bringing his staff with him that knew his communication, knew what he expected out of everyone. I see a lot of the same things Alex Golesh has done already that we can anticipate. They're going to have an offensive style that emulates, that is similar to what he did at South Florida. It's going to have a defense that's similar to what we did at Auburn. And so now you got a kicker, punter, back in a great kick returner. You got a special teams that's solid, which is very important. If you're going to turn a program around, you've got to win several close games. You've got to win several games that come down to the wire. Now, do you have not necessarily the strongest leg, but you have an accurate field goal kicker? Well, you've got one of the most accurate field goal kickers in the country coming back. You've got a punter that's experienced, and you got a kick returner that can make things happen when you do get a chance to return kicks. So that kicking game of defense sure adds to it. But again, so I think the interesting part of this offense, of this team, I think will be the offense. What kind of offense? How will it affect the SEC? And does this fast break, fast moving style that Alex Golesh would believe he will stay with it? You know, he's always tinkering. Everybody tinkers with their offense. I think you've read some of the things about Alex Golesh. And let me say this. I don't know how I read down. Joey Johnson, a great writer for the Tampa Tribune, has been a South Florida beat writer for 30 years, did a great 3-part series that he wrote on Alex Golesh, maybe the first or second year he was at UCF. I encourage everyone to read that. Maybe we can run that on over the cover. It's an old article, it's 3-part, but it really gets down to what Alex Golesh is all about, what his philosophy is, what his work ethic is, all those things. But I think that's going to be the question. Can he bring that offensive style in with that quarterback that's running? Can they add him up to the football team to get over the hump to the next level? And that's going to be important. It looks to me, Ronnie, like he's going to do it with what he's always done. We're going to play fast. We're going to run a lot of plays, and we're going to keep the defense on their heels and not on their toes. Is that the number one way of doing things nowadays? I think we all have to question that. I'm not going to lie to you. I watched him call plays in Tennessee when I was at ULM. I said, I'm going to run that. I'm going to run that next year. And I studied to run that offense the very next year because of what they were doing. People that remember that offense at Tennessee was so explosive. But there is a caveat. There's a warning there. And I think you have to just say, okay, is running a fast break, no huddle, nonstop offense the best way to win football games at 26? Isn't the best way. And I think you've got to say, okay, jury's got to be out. Jury's going to be out now. And I would say if I was coaching still, I'd say, I got to study this. I really have to study this because let's look at the last year's. I look back. Okay, let's look at last year's 10 fastest teams in the country. They call plays faster than anybody, 21.4 seconds. South Florida and Florida Atlantic, I think, were the two top teams. And 21.4 seconds between plays. Then it goes, and then the top 10 goes right down from there. So I said, let's go look at the fastest 10 teams last year and what their records were. FAU went 4-8, USF 9-4, West Virginia 4-8, Tulsa 4-8, Baylor 5-7, Mississippi State 5-8, Tennessee 8-5, LSU 7-6, UTEP 2-10, and Southern Miss 7-6. It doesn't correlate right now.
No.
Now, does that mean it's still not a great way to play? It still correlates. Yeah, right now, the correlation of the way it hit 10 years ago or 5 years ago, how fast can you run plays? How much does that put defenses on their heels? How much that impacts the game in a positive way? I think the jury's out now if the defenses haven't caught up. And we've got to look at that. And I guarantee Alex Golesh is seeing the same stats I see. He knows what he's doing. I enjoy running fast break, but I think you got to question it. And I'll let you, you're dying to throw comment. I went back and said, let's look at the top 5 teams last year. The teams that were the top 5 top teams in the country. Indiana, 29.5 seconds, the bottom 50. Miami, 29.4 seconds a game, bottom 50. Ole Miss was actually in the top 50 with 22.6, but Oregon, number 4, 27.5 seconds, and Ohio State, 30.6 seconds. All 4 of those 5 things were in the bottom 25% in slow and play state. Which, you know what does that tell me? Is that, you know what, some things never change. You win with running the football and playing defense. You win with running football and playing defense. And playing fast can be a positive factor or it can be a negative factor. But the main thing is, can you play fast and have great defense and run the football? And that's one of those things. And I will say this, and Alex Golesh has to lead all the time the football. He's big on running the football. That's going to be a big part.
There's no question. And you look at his background. He's worked for Matt Campbell. He worked at Oklahoma State with our good friend, was a GA for our good friend Joe Wickline.
Oh yeah.
And so he's got a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different ways to skin a cat. So
no, and I'm just saying as I go into the season, I start studying teams and I start saying, okay, you have to study and decide what is not what people perceive is the right answer. So go see what actually happens. And I'm just saying I think fast break offense, playing as fast as you can, it really impacted college football. No football goes way back. I hate to tell you all this. When I was coaching at Auburn 30 years ago in 1993, we went undefeated to win a national championship. But my dad at Florida State with Charlie Rule was running a no-huddle fast break offense and won the national championship according to the NCAA Sears Trophy or whatever that is. When they fast break offense, before Mike Leach ever left Valdosta State. So in a fast hurry up offense has been one thing. The speed in which Alex Golesh ran his offense at Tennessee in 22 for Josh Heupel, the speed in which he ran that was a lot faster. My dad called his offense the racehorse defense. I think that offense was more like NASCAR offense. It was on high speed situations. I think the good thing is, I think people sit in those stands. I think they know if they're studying students of college football that you have to play great defense and you've got to run the football. But there is something enjoyable about watching an offense that gets up there and moves on that field and can score points. And I think that's still what I think is deep down. That's still built into an Alex Golesh philosophy. We're going to attack on offense, and we will see how that goes. But I think to me, if you're good at it and you make sure you can run the football, play defense, it's a real plus to be able to go fast. If you're pre and out a lot and you're not making a lot of yards, that puts your defense on the field over and over and over again. I remember when I was in Auburn and I was moving into the no-huddle offense in '95, maybe my third year, and and my defensive coordinator is, would y'all slow it down? Would y'all slow it down? I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're doing well, you're scoring 2 or 3 plays. If you're doing bad, you're punting 2 or 3 plays, and you're putting us back on the field. You're making us, we're getting tired. And so you don't get many defensive coordinators that like all of that stuff, And if you remember, and the thing I remember about Tennessee when Alex Golesh would call it plays, if you remember when a runner ran out of bounds or a receiver caught him out of bounds, they ran the ball back to the middle of the field and gave it to the official to set down. Everybody gets lined up as quickly as they can. Now, whether they still go that fast or not, but I do know that's the way they were doing back then. That's 4 years ago. And to say that they don't change up, there's something called tempo. You can change the speed with you things. There's a good, strong feeling that you can run up tempo offense. Just know when to slow it down. Know when to go fast and when to go slow, and mix it up enough that the defense is off balance. And so I think that's probably something you might have in mind there for the season. So should be interesting. But I think those are the keys. The fact that he's built on the things that Auburn does well, and he's going to bring in some. I think it's some areas that we need for it to improve.
Yeah, I mean, we used to run 5 different speeds at Florida.
Well, I mean, you do have different speeds. I think it's a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Ron Zucker, when he got to Florida, he said, I want to have the offense that makes it that is the most difficult to defend. And first thing we started was we wanted to go as fast as we could go, because he said that was the hardest to defend. And so
I think for most of us back then, it was the hardest because people weren't ready for it. Like when the wishbone came out, and then this goes back to the 70s for many of y'all who don't go quite back that far. When the wishbone came back out, it was the hardest to defend. Nobody could defend it. The offenses started putting it in there. Auburn went to it with Bo Jackson. You remember Bo Jackson, and even before Bo Jackson, Randy Campbell and some of that stuff early. Well, Randy was with Bo and him, I think, early, but Pat Dye's career, they put in the triple option. So in Alabama, even earlier than that, Alabama did with Johnny Musso and some of the quarterbacks, some of the people, all the way back to the 1970s. That's when that type of style came to football. Football, so much of college football is about being on the front end of a curve, not the back end of a curve. When you're coaching, are you on the front end of what's going on in college football? Or are you on the back end of it? And I think that's very important. And so we'll see how that goes. I think the thing that we all learned again from Kurt Cignetti at Cincinnati, and I was lucky enough to be coached by his father and know Kurt since he was in grade school. Much of his success at Indiana is still being built on the old fundamentals of football. They led the nation in turnover margin. They played great defense. They ran the football. They didn't turn the ball over. They didn't have penalties. All those things that you do as a disciplined and well-organized team, they checked all the boxes at Indiana. And the thing that I didn't mention about Alex Golesh, it was at Indiana, I didn't mention it. He brought about 21 players from Kansas. Now, if anybody thinks for a second that the Sun Belt, which I coached in, got the same level of players that the Big Ten got, or the same people that telling me the AAC at USL are getting the same level of players that the SEC gets. They don't get the same level of players. They don't beat out SEC players. But what happens when you move from a USL to an Auburn, you get to pick and choose who you want. You get to pick and choose the ones that they got passed over by the Power 4 teams. You get to pick and choose the ones that fit your offensive style, or that can get you to a successful first year until you get the very elite players in the SEC playing for you and Auburn in every position. At the very least, to begin with, you get guys that can run your offense, that can run your defense, and know exactly what you expect of them, and you cut down that learning curve. I mean, if anything, isn't that kind of what you want to do as a first-year head coach? You want to cut that learning curve down, because there's very little on-the-job training to get in the SEC. You better be pretty good at it your first year, because it goes down if you be careful if you lose there and you haven't got it going. So I think that the number of players he got, Coach Golesh got from USF are big. What he's going to do offensively, And I don't want to take away from the fact of fast break offense or a quick offense. You can, like you talked about, you can tinker with that and change it every year to a little bit different here, a little bit different there. And I know good and well, you do that every year. You're a head coach, and I've done it every year that I was a head coach. But I think that's kind of what we got to expect from this season. But the season ought to be pretty good. It looks today, and we look at the season, and again, we're kind of just getting ready for the whole season here. I'm excited about talking about it. We still got 2 or 3, weeks away until September 5th. It's a big game with Baylor in Atlanta. But we can debate that. We've talked about that. I think everybody has, whether it's a better move or a worse move than being in Auburn. From an NIL money perspective, they made decisions based on the amount of money they can generate and revenues they can get tied to that NIL package. And there will be mostly Auburn fans there. That's one thing. The Auburn will fill up Atlanta much more than Baylor will, in that regard. But it should kick off a pretty interesting September, pretty important September, and maybe that's what we should talk about for our listeners is the season as it breaks down and what we got, what we can look to see progress in September, in October, and November.
Yeah, it's a front-loaded schedule. Of course, in the SEC, nothing's easy, but you look at the first part of that schedule, you've got Baylor, Southern Miss, and then I think Florida
and Vanderbilt, first 4 weeks of September, and and September is critical in what you need to get accomplished because it ain't nothing like September is it's a winnable September, but there are some tough parts. I mean, you got Baylor, Southern Miss, Vanderbilt. I'll tell you right now, if you're going to have the unit you want to have, those got to be wins for you.
Mm-hmm.
Florida now is a game that could be a toss-up. It's going to be Florida at home. And Florida's kind of got a new coach, and he's a good coach too. And I think both these coaches have a positive, have created a positive vibe at their programs. John Summerall and Alex Golesh have created a positive feel at their, and I know John a lot better because I just coached against John when he was at Troy, and knowing what going to delay, and be at the Woods. But I like that game. I think that's critical because if Auburn's going to have a great year, and again, we're talking in generalities now. We're not looking past the first game. And yes, Baylor's the only game on Auburn's spot. That's up to the coaches to make sure that. That's up to the coaches to make sure the players don't think past Baylor. But as fans, as we look at this season, we got to look at I think you look at it month to month. It's threefold, it's 3-part season. In September, to me, 3-1 or 4-0 is if you're going to have a year that I think you can have, the special year, you need to sit there and say, oh God, we got to beat Baylor. We got to beat Southern Miss, 7-6 Southern Miss last year. And we got to beat Vanderbilt. They lost their quarterback who was a difference maker in their program. They've lost him. They're not able to rebuild with the athletes and all of that they've had in the past. And we got Vanderbilt and Jordan Hare. So you got Florida and Jordan Hare, Vanderbilt and Jordan Hare, Southern Miss and Jordan Hare, and you would have had Baylor and Jordan Hare. Yeah. So to me, September's important, but it needs to be successful in September.
Talk a little bit about, Feinbaum has already started, as you probably imagine, talking about Summerall and the fact that he chose not to go to Auburn, went to Florida instead, and then early season clash between Golesh and Summerall kind of setting the tone. I'm not sure if I agree completely with that, but I do think it's an important game.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, well, first of all, it's important for the season. I mean, you get it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Did Florida get the best coach? Did Auburn get the best coach? We've already talked about first year. We'll know a lot more, but that's not even going to define their careers at these two institutions. And maybe both teams got the coaches. Both teams got the right coach. And both coaches will do very, very well. I mean, when I was at Auburn, we were being pretty successful, but Steve Spurrier was slouching Mark. He was turning the whole conference upside down. We knocked him off the first 2 years, but he beat me my last 4, but he was the top. They were the top program in the SEC during the decade of the 90s. But I think, to me, that is a good, you could call Feinbaum. Paul loves to create pressure. He loves to create Just like I think I saw an article he wrote for one of the magazines about the SEC. What's wrong with the SEC? They dropped the ball. They're not what they used to be. And that would kind of pump the fans up, and get them kind of irritated. Paul's great at that type of broadcasting, but I think that's Florida is a you better be 3-1. I mean, you can say Florida's the end. No, you better beat Baylor, Southern Miss, Vanderbilt. The reason I say that, back when I got to Auburn, and I looked at my early schedule, I said, man, these are the games I better win. I had to myself inside my head. These are the games I got to win, because those other ones are at best a toss-up. And to many people, we're going to be considered an underdog. Now, I pretty much think as people look at our schedule in September, people that aren't for Auburn or for Florida, or they just love college football, the SEC, I would say Auburn's got to beat Baylor and Southern Miss, and that's key. And then Florida, if we can get that one next year, now September's been how much better could it possibly be? Because I think Florida's sitting down. I don't know what Florida's early schedule's like, and Florida has not had an easy schedule. But I would say they're in the same boat. They're probably circling Auburn, and we're circling Florida. Without publicly doing it, every coach is right now focused on one thing: the first football. We're looking at the month of September and what that could be like. But the great thing, we got home games. We got home games at Florida and Vanderbilt and Florida and Southern Miss. Great September. We're going to be down. We're going to be in Florida in Auburn all 3 of those weekends. Hopefully, doing maybe a Thursday night live remote, doing a Saturday morning live remote, anything like that. We'll be doing in Auburn and having fun down there with the Auburn. Big September. They're all important, but Circle Florida probably is that one that will define a little bit of how good you're going to be down the road. Because I do think John Summerall's a good coach, and I know him well. He did everything he could possibly do at Troy. He did everything he could possibly do at Tulane. Those are his 2 head coaching experiences. He's got about 5 or 6 years of head coaching experience. Golesh has had 1 head coaching experience in South Florida, and he turned that program back around too. He turned that program into a winning program. And so they both have done about as much as they can do where they were. But should be an exciting September for Auburn, and only a couple of weeks away too, so it's not too far away.
And we mentioned Florida's early season schedule. They open up with FAU, then Campbell, Auburn, and Ole Miss. The first 2, but
they're going to be 2-0. They're going to be 2-0 coming to Turnier, but they've got 2 tough. Mm-hmm. They got 2 tough ones, and Auburn will be the first. So it'll be they probably feel pretty good about their own 2 opponents going, and having to come up to Jordan here and play Auburn. Where do they play Ole Miss in Gainesville or in
Gainesville?
Oxford? Well, I think they got that one. Anyway, that'll be a big one for both teams. Let's cross our fingers and say 2 undefeated teams coming into that football game. With Auburn having a little bit tougher, going Baylor out there as opposed to going up against the first 2, Campbell and FAU. FAU did not have one season. I don't know what can, and that's a 1AA. I guess they're a 1AA program. I thought or Division II program. I don't know. But anyway, we'll be building up for that. But that September is great, but only because it throws you into October, and that a scary. I'm going to say Halloween's in October. That's scary October. October is going to be I don't want to say it's a make it break. October is the kind that defines a great year from a good year, maybe from a big turnaround to a huge turnaround, because October is four boogers, four toughies. From at Tennessee, then a week off at Georgia, LSU, and Ole Miss. That's a big boy schedule there. That's a big boy schedule. You got to put your big boy pants on and play that one. And you can argue about Big Ten SEC football, but you can't find an October any tougher for any but America. Then Tennessee at Tennessee, Georgia at Georgia, Ole Miss at Ole Miss, and they can get an LSU at home after an off week. It's going to be about as tough as you can get. So we won't get too much past the thoughts of September, but we can look at October as being as critical for us as well. So I'll never get used to not having Georgia the week before Alabama on the schedule, because in so many years at Auburn, and I used to love to say you could be 9-0 and have saved your career, but you haven't saved your job at Auburn because you haven't played Georgia and Alabama, which were always the last two games. But getting Georgia early, I guess, compared to getting Georgia and Alabama at the very end, is a better situation. But you know what? That does give Auburn a chance in September to maybe still be tinkering with your offense, tinkering with your personnel, getting the right people starting, the right way of using one player as opposed to using another player, and getting all that stuff tinkered with, finding ways to win. Because when you get to October, you better be playing your best football, because that schedule ends up being that's the month that's your toughest month. And that's the one where you better be playing your best football by mid-season and not by the end of the season. Now, Alabama's at the end of the season, but we'll look on to November. But I would say November not the same schedule as October is. Start to feel like football season. Start to feel like football weather. No place better to be than in Auburn in October. But those will be ready for some good football. I'll tell you. Well, I say then 3 of the games are away, so it won't be too much in Auburn for that month of October. But it will be a big week, big month for the football program.
Yeah, talk a little bit about you merged your staff with Coach Ty, kind of kept the defense together. Golesh has done a little bit of the same thing with Durkin and keeping some guys around, the defensive line coach. How important is that?
It's critical, Ronnie. I think, don't fix something that's not broken. I remember Jackie Sherrill used to have a saying, if it ain't broken, break it. And I get, what are you talking about, Jackie? If it ain't broken, I break it. He just felt like you always need to look at change. And I think what he was trying to say, you could kind of figure it out, but really, when you're honestly speaking, don't fix something that's not broken. Focus on the things you got to get better, and then maintain what you got. And so I think, I think Alex Golesh, wasn't rocket science to say I've got a really good defensive coordinator. He's so good that they could have hired him as the head coach. When they were looking, he was a candidate and probably an outstanding candidate, and probably will be down the road somewhere. But right now, they've been able to keep a guy that was able to pull that team together, and keep Auburn in football games. And the offense could have just done anything last year, which we didn't do. I think we could have pulled out a win or two more, gotten over the hump, maybe. But right now, I think that was critical. Keep that coach, keep the offense, the defensive style. What starters that you've got coming back, although you don't have nearly the shakeup on defense that you have on offense. You have, offense, you got basically transferred at 10 out of 11 positions. You got transfers coming in on offense, offensive line and all that. But defensively, you got some returning people. You've got a first team all conference linebacker that's a stud in the middle. They can make plays happen, as well as some other key players. So I think you put your defense in the best position to be successful. And I think when you can run the football, and I think which is what Alex Golesh is going to want to do with his quarterback and with his running back, run the football. Whether you go fast or slow, you run the football and you score points, gives that defense a better position to not always be played from behind, and where every series has got to be the most critical series of the game. So I like the decisions that were made in regard to that, and I think we're going to see result. I think we're going to see a positive impact early as Auburn plays that way, and plays with a defense that really is should be able to pick up where they left off last year.
Yeah, and if you look at the staff he's managed to put together, it's pretty impressive. Hired a former defensive coordinator from Tennessee to be the secondary coach, and he's brought in guys like Larry Porter.
Uh-huh.
He's brought in some guys that are really, really impressive coaches. In addition to the guys
I don't think I ever had a problem talking to a coach didn't work out at all. I don't think there was ever. I hired coaches from the SEC. I hired coaches from Alabama. I hired coaches that want to go to Auburn. It's a great place to live and a great place to coach. over the years since then, it's been a little bit scary because of the turnover, not knowing whether a coach is going to be there, but also coaches just didn't ban, you know. But then there's coaches like Jizik who won that championship and didn't last very long either. So there's a little bit of scariness there, but Auburn is the kind of place that attracts other coaches, attracts somewhere where it's a town that people want to raise their family, a school system where they want to bring their children to go to school. My sister has retired there. My mom's up there. I wouldn't be shocked about it. Someone end up in Auburn, although I consider like Mark of Auburn. I don't know if I might get in trouble for saying that. Does that count living in Auburn? If you want to live at that, I love Lake Mark. Honestly, I spent 4th of July there this year. I think it's important that he was able to get the staff that he got. And you get some guys that understand the SEC, understand what it means to play in the SEC. And I think you mentioned defense, and I think it's important that you have people that either played in the SEC or coached in the SEC that understand the intensity in which you've got to play defense. Now, with the days being different in the early 90s from the 2026 and the style of offense being different, we came into Auburn at an era when it was still 11 personnel, high formation football. Your big back, we had a guy named Bostic and Steve Davis, followed guys like Bo Jackson and the big backs and all the quarterbacks that were physical. I think you now got defenses that have to adapt this fast break, throw the ball a lot type of stuff. But I still think to win championships, you got to play physical, aggressive, attacking defense. And that's where it starts. Because you get to the good teams in our conference, and Georgia's going to be one of them. They're going to be able to run football. They're going to play defense and run football. And I would imagine that's what you're going to get out of Georgia, and that's what you're going to get out of Texas. I know that they're probably not. They're probably a little more finesse. I don't want to say finesse. They're probably going to throw it around, than Georgia. But the better teams are going to have great athletes. And you got to go stop them. And so I think you got to do that. I don't want to stop with the conference till I hit November. And I think November, if y'all can, I want to mention that the conference, our schedule next year, September, October, November, 3 different parts of the schedule. What are we going to do in September? Let's go 3-1. Let's go 3-1. Because October could be a tough. After you split 2-2, you do something like that, you still got a great chance. But then you go into November. Can we finish strong in November after Arkansas at Arkansas? After Ole Miss at Ole Miss, then we got November. Arkansas at home, at Mississippi State, Stanford at home. That's 3 right there. That now, whatever happens, if you're hanging around 50 or 500, you got to remember, no winning seasons in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So if you're hanging around 500, you're trying to get to that next level. Let's get to there. Let's get to the end of October with a good schedule, because then we got Arkansas, who was they won one conference game last year, and they're building. They're having to build. Mississippi State, same way. They were 4-8 last year, but they only won one conference game. I think Arkansas may have only won one also, but Mississippi State, they won one conference game, but 4-8. Stanford, obviously, is your game that you had before. So to me, that's enough. November's a month where 3-0 in November would get you about mentally right for that game in Tuscaloosa with Alabama. And so that may be a bigger game for DeMoore than it is for Alex Golesh, that's for sure. In the way, according to Bowden Ball, anyway, the way they're going down there. But November ends up being, I think it shakes out to a nice November schedule, because it always ends with Alabama. But if you're going to end with Alabama, let's play Arkansas, Mississippi State, Stanford, going to get out. And that's kind of what you would like to do. So really, you can break your season down. I know that we're a couple of weeks away from the first game. But as you look at your calendar and you look at your how you're going to prepare yourself for this season, I think you can prepare it for September, then October, then November, and go from there. As we said at the beginning of the show, we don't know exactly what that first year is going to hold for Alex Golesh. We don't know. I know the anticipation is so much excitement. Look, we're going to go out there and win them all. But we don't know what totally to expect. And then when it all happens at the end of it, it won't be the defining year of his career at Auburn. I don't believe. I believe it'll fast start, jump start. It'll move us in the right direction. Uh, but I looking back over time, you'd almost want to build up to your best years instead of having all year one. But history shows that the coaches that have done the best over the years at Auburn, some of those coaches did not have great first years. They got it moving in the right direction. I guess we should add this: NIL change and portal transfers did change a lot. The expectation level. I mean, back when I came to Auburn and so many coaches in the past, you couldn't transfer. You had no trade. You play with who you had, and then you signed high school guys.
Yeah.
And you just try to play better football because you had what you had. You could nowadays, like we have 10 new guys on offense that were not here at the university last year. You couldn't do that 20 years ago. And so there is that chance to make huge turnaround. You look what Signetti did. Look what Texas Tech's doing at Texas Tech with the portal. And so we might say, well, you know what? We can't always look at the first year and say that's going to be a defining year of a career. But we can say, you know what, with portal transfer and the ability to bring it who you want, and a school like Auburn, well, I don't know if Auburn to talk about how much they put in NIL, but I would say they're not going to lose guys because they don't have money. I don't think Auburn's going to lose a guy because they decide they don't have enough money to get that guy. You know, I don't think that would be. I don't think that's going to happen unless you are Auburn or Alabama. I think you have to get a guy. You got to get a guy. You know, and I think Auburn will have to get the right guys too. So should be an interesting season. Should be interesting.
Should be a lot of fun. A
lot of fun. I'm excited. We're hitting a lot of topics, but I'm gonna tell you, we got a lot of good stuff coming up.
We do. It should be a lot of fun. Before we go, talk a little bit about our sponsor.
Sponsor Tom Haley and Haley Red Family Foundation is with us again. They'll be sponsoring our Bowden Ball Auburn Football Edition. I have a Bowden Ball Winning Edge national show that I do 2 nights a week on national networks. But Tom Haley and the Haley Red Family Foundation will be sponsoring Bowden Ball Auburn Edition each and every week. I won't say what all else we're going to do, but I think as Ronnie, with you would say, we got some great things lined up. We got some great plans lined up, and it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to everybody working with us and getting to Auburn Undercover and getting yourself online there and be able to catch our podcast there and other information. So should be a lot of fun. Appreciate Tom Haley, appreciate, of course, Tiger Communications now working with us as we simulcast these things on radio and on internet. Should bring this all together.
Should be a whole lot of fun this year. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and click like and subscribe below. It helps keep us in your feed, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. War Eagle.